Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. Andrew Kuo, the shocking trade that took place. PJ Tucker to Utah Jazz. We're going to talk Luka. We're going to talk about the trade that sent shockwaves through the NBA. No one is safe. But first, did you watch the Grammys?
The tuckery that was the Grammys. I did most of it, kind of with the corner of my eye. I have a heater take about the Grammys, though. As I was like chilling, absorbing all the huge basketball news that we will get to in the next perfect pod, in this perfect pod. But yeah, I did watch.
That's how you tease. That's how you tease the news right there. You know, let people know that if you stick around for an hour and change, you're going to get to the top story. But first, Andrew Kuo sort of watches the Grammys.
Well, how could you, right? Because I am a jaded old head. So Charlie XCX, while I enjoy her music and her brilliant marketing, I'm like, this doesn't speak to me as an older person, but it also didn't speak to me as a younger person. I have a heater of a take, Ben. Just ask me about it.
I first want to know, can I, as a white person, call myself jaded in the same way that you can?
Nope. You can also not participate in a Chinese fire drill. You cannot go to any establishment with the words lucky, fortune, and good in the name. And you cannot walk downtown because we're celebrating Chinese New Year. Happy New Year, Ben. I take it back. Oh, no Happy New Year.
Thank you. You don't sound as jaded as I once thought you did.
Oh, is this are we turning into fascists? Podcast from Chat Square?
Look, Andrew, I wanted a president who would allow me to say slurs, and here we are. I am just, I'm giving a little bit of a tariff energy right now, but I'm going to get to like real big slurs because that's the America we live in. But all right, back to the Grammys. Mm-hmm. You had a hot take. I deprived you of it with my slurs. Now it's time for the take.
We need to bring shame back. I think America is a little bit uneasy. Maybe we have your guy in the White House. We have people fighting for big and small things everywhere just to get back to a level of normalcy. And in my opinion, in my humble opinion, how we got here was a slow burn and then a really fast kind of flame. But it involves pop culture. And I think the merging of subculture with popular culture into one thing where we have Jay-Z and Beyonce reigning at the Grammy Awards, Charlie XCX, like always wanted to be a star, but an underground dance kind of icon become just for moms and dads like myself. That is fun, but also my take is it's bad for culture and it's bad for politics because there's no equal response and there's no new ideas to ideas that exist that we don't really like. So obviously it involves technology, but the acceptance that somewhere around 2004, 5, 6, Pitchfork started reviewing Beyonce records and giving her best new music. And I think that singularity of cultural thinking turned really exciting ideas into just like, yes, Taylor Swift, Queen.
I mean, yeah, you could look into other subcultures. I remember 90s stuff, right? It was like Tribe Called Quest, Ice Cube, on record denouncing the Grammys, like who gives a
Fugazi.
Who gives a damn about a goddamn Grammy or gives a fuck about a goddamn Grammy? Whatever those phrases were.
Right.
That's the kind of recognition that proves you're lame. Mm-hmm. That if these losers who run the record industry in a room full of stuffed shirts are giving you this award, it shows that you have betrayed the principles of artistry and being a renegade and so forth. And then, of course, now you'd be like, Kendrick Lamar validated when a room full of people sings A minor.
I know.
Well, these are the same people who presented Drake as an icon that they are now tearing down on his behalf.
Mhm.
But it's viewed as like an incredible moment for whether it's rap music, but he's also doing the Super Bowl. So,
Right. And, like Beyonce winning Best Country Album. I'm just like, this is not a good thing. And then I realized, oh, good. Beyonce is not mine anymore. She's on Obama top year-end lists. She's beloved by new conservatives, new normies everywhere. And I'm not saying I am far from cool. I am a regular dude father who stresses out about the cost of eggs now, for sure. But like, I miss the pushback when an album was on a major label. It would just be like, that's no longer for us. Nirvana just got back together without Kurt Cobain. They used 4 singers for a benefit for the LA fires. And everyone's like, Nirvana reunited. I'm like, ooh. First of all, maybe Dave Grohl and Novoselic together. That's cool. Novoselic is kind of a recluse, so that's interesting. But I don't know what Kurt Cobain would say about it. He might be cool if he's looking down at the proceedings. But that band
Kurt Cobain is staring up at us right now.
Yeah. It's like the guy from the Village People doing the inauguration. It's just like, this is transformed into something we don't understand anymore. And you may think it's a good thing, depending on what your politics are. But I feel like it is not something that we should accept willingly. I think we should have skepticism. And, I think about when Patti Smith, Moby, and David Byrne, among others, told young New Yorkers to leave New York in the mid-aughts, that it was too expensive and it was no longer a creative hub. It has been the creative hub, and people who stayed have lived great New York City lives. But what they should have said was, don't log on to pitchfork.com, pitchforkmedia.com, because you're going to be reading about a great, weird, strange dance record, a hyperpop thing, something brewing, and then be like, Beyonce, best new music.
Andrew, why don't you let people enjoy things?
Well, right. So I think curmudgeon-y is annoying, and I don't like it in basketball. And, we do a basketball pod, so like, it's not like we're edgy or anything. But within the stories of like the Grammy Awards and the NBA Finals and the Super Bowl, there are things to take away from it. So like, the thing I took away from the Grammys last night was, we have to use this as a cheat sheet of things that we either love or ignore based on our own personal politics.
I was also thinking about the sort of self-selection of social media and these moments, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, if you are watching the Grammys and on Twitter, you are a certain kind of person. I don't mean homogenous, but you are a person who is in those two Venn diagrams. You're a Grammy watcher and you're a Twitter watcher, or a Twitter tweeter, an X watch, whatever, however you want to phrase it. But you fit those criteria. So like, if you're not a Grammy watcher and you go on Twitter at that moment and you say, well, I don't know what people are talking about. I guess it's the Grammys, which was where I fall into. I was, well, what's going on? Oh, Grammys are on, right? But you're there, you're seeing it, you're ingesting it in this way, and it does feel like there's going to be an echo effect, right? Because it's the same thing with NBA Twitter. Those are the only two that I'm really familiar with. Is like Kind of Politics Twitter,
Tofu Twitter,
NBA Twitter, Mapo Tofu Magazine Twitter, and I guess like pop culture. So you're just running right into the train of Twitter, whatever that age group would be, and the Grammys. And like, is that real? Like, is that pop culture? I don't know.
Yeah, and I have absolutely been victim of this. I fell into the trap of spreading my brain too thin for like 20 years, being like, to your exact point, being like, ooh, you know what I like too? That big record everyone enjoys. I kind of want to go to MSG to see that artist. You know what I also like? Dingy after hours parties where there's 40 people there, all high on drugs. I like that too. You know, I also like basketball. But you know what I don't like? Basketball Twitter. And it was like dividing my attention in my brain space into so many tiny fragments that it felt like I didn't soak the tofu enough in the salt water before I put it in the wok. Kind of disintegrates on me, right?
Oh, I remember this. There was you would leave the room like Andrew has his brain spread too thin. It's like it's like spit on a rock. It's like a little bit of margarine on a nice piece of toast. Your brain was, I mean, just a sheen of brain.
Well, I've discussed this before. I used to be really addicted to video games to a point where, like, in my early teens, to a point where, like, my friends and family were like, yeah, you're getting a little weird about this. I would try to beat games on a timer, whatever. And then I realized, like, oh, I have nothing to show for this. When I beat my time on Castlevania or Sonic the Hedgehog or Zelda, I'm just like, I fucking did it. Yo, that was 4 minutes faster than before. And then I was like, but who cares, right? These are
where are my accolades? I mean, right. where are my fawning audiences to say, Quo, your speed run was incredible?
Or what did I learn? That shortcut works. It's like, oh, there's a new system with new games. Oh, 64 came out. Oh, in Super Mario Brothers 64, you could just take a nap next to butterflies. And like my brain kind of like just went kaput. And I was just
Andrew, you learned the pattern of the flying Medusa heads.
Well, I mean, I love 8-bit shit, but like, and sports has that possibility of like being like, oh, I've been rooting for nothing. And then, we wrote a book about it. You're actually rooting for something, but you need to change your brain into a lane on the highway that gives you some reward. You got to buy the bag of oranges because oranges are delicious. But if you pass that by, you might be just in traffic the whole time.
Well, that's an interesting point because in the same way we were talking about basketball and we have our rooting interests and we fight the good fight against the nefarious Boston media mafia.
True.
Whenever we can, we see Jaylen Brown make an all-star team and we react with the appropriate amount of outrage and scornfulness for this corrupt system. But I don't think I really root for that many things otherwise. And I think when you're talking about the Grammys or in this way, there are people actively rooting for musicians and actively rooting for artists to perform and get accreditation. And I see people really excited about, say, like Doncic or Kendrick Lamar, where they represent an ideology that people are rooting for and want to be recognized, and seeing other people praising it is the reward enough, right? It's like, I like Doncic. I don't have anything other than a rooting interest in them. I like their music. I would like them to be popular because I respect their craft. I may have been like that at some point when my brain was too thin. Now it's locked on. But I don't actually have pop culture rooting interests like that, other than for RX Nephew and RX Poppy. That's really the extent at this point.
There was two examples that come to mind immediately. I think Elliott Smith playing Miss Misery at the Oscars was like, I felt awesome about it because he was a lot of our favorite singers and one of our favorite singers, and him on that stage was crazy because he was such an outsider. And also then 3-6 Mafia, it felt good to see them kind of take over that moment. But those are like two distinctly unprofessional artists. Like, they're very, very successful. Elliott Smith did not live, so he's unsuccessful in that regard. But like, they reached a certain pinnacle that I thought they weren't expecting. But in their hearts, I'm like, you guys aren't built to be stars. So seeing you here is interesting. Seeing you on the stage is interesting because based off of my judgment, I'm just like, you're not going to change that much. But when I see Kendrick, I'm just like, oh, he was built for superstardom. He's wanted superstardom. He is a pop star. So he takes the role of like a Whitney Houston, Anita Baker, all these successful artists of my time who are all great. You know, I'm not saying they're bad musicians. I'm saying it wasn't useful for somebody who had a little bit of skepticism. And I think bringing back bad behavior, being like, I hate it, I don't like your music, might be healthy or interesting.
Think a little bit about Snoop Dogg here, right?
Oh my gosh.
Going from a guy who beat a murder charge,
He was a thrilling
the most dangerous man in music. There was like a Newsweek cover. It was like Rap Rage or something along those lines. It was Dr. Dre and Snoop, and it's like, this is the violent perversion that is coming into the ears of American youth.
Yeah, he was dangerous.
Now he's performing at the Trump inauguration. He'll do anything. He will do anything. And
I quit smoking. Psych.
My dad is like, this Snoop guy, I'm so sick of him. He does everything. He'll just do whatever. Like my dad's calling him out for his for Snoop Dogg's thin brain.
He's a pop culture icon, right? And like, it doesn't take away the fact that Ice Cube put out crazy records that Chipper Gore was so infuriated by that she had to put the little parental advisory sticker on albums that the government or the FCC seemed not appropriate for children, right? And that's still there, and it has a meaningless kind of symbolism to it now. And then, you know, Ice Cube ends up being in family movies, and good, he's happy, and I don't want people to end up unhappy like Elliott Smith. So that outcome is amazing on a humanitarian level. But like, I want more danger in my art. Is that fair to say?
You are the danger, Andrew.
Right. I'm not locked in the record store. The record store's locked in with me.
You're not watching the Grammys on Twitter.
I'm like, ooh,
the Grammys, you know, Twitter's watching the Grammys with you. Yeah.
Is this a Ronnie Size remix 12-inch?
Ronnie Size is locked in the record store.
Yeah. Goldie's back.
With you. Yeah. No, but I hear you, and I'm not demanding that. No, Snoop's got to remain on trial for his life throughout his career periodically to get back to the self-defense murder that helped define him and made him edgy. I don't think that Ice Cube needed to remain the doughboy figure for, you know, America's Most Wanted. I don't care what those guys do. If they want to merge into pop culture and become fabulously wealthy, great. But we need more danger to replace them. It's okay if they go family. They don't need to be just like, all right, here I am, Mr. Danger, back on my bullshit. It's like, no. You can evolve, but we need more danger coming up through the system. And I'm not talking about just rap music, obviously. I'm talking about everywhere. And as far as what I saw from the Grammys, there was a low quotient of danger, but maybe that's a good thing.
Pop music is.
Do you want your danger there? Do you want danger at the Grammys?
That's what I'm saying. I don't want my danger in Obama year-end list. I don't want Ocasio-Cortez to be like, I'm down for Kendrick Lamar. You know, I don't want the city of Los Angeles to be like, Kendrick, save us, right? Or maybe I accept those terms of engagement.
Gavin Newsom is here with Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah. Like,
and this is about forest fires.
I don't think Celine Dion #5 works as like a marketing thing for the Grammys in 2025. I'm not asking for that. I'm acknowledging the victory. I'm acknowledging Trump won. I'm acknowledging Bloomberg won New York City. But I don't have to accept it, right? Like, it is something like, okay, you give this award to a big man, a guard, Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year. I accept he wins this award on the terms of the BMM, but like, it doesn't affect my laser focus, Ben, of knowing how that award is subjective.
I mean, I love the fact that you were able to get just a little shtickle of Brett Winter last night. And we saw, you know, a downtown cohort on stage with Charlie XCX.
Many.
they were there. Lots of them. Lots of people we know.
Yeah.
Creative, interesting, cool people. And it kind of made me think of something that our buddy Dean Kissick was talking about the other day about the turbo normies, and discussing that photo from the inauguration parties that we discussed on last week's perfect pod of Cookies Hoops. But that story later ended up going viral more for the imagery than even what were the contents of the New York Magazine.
Well, the vice president chimed
coverage.
in. Yeah.
So there was this idea of these young people in suits. They were clearly photographed to look sort of piggish. There was like a readiness to their face and a lot of shadows. And
it was for horny men. It was a picture for horny men.
But people are like, this is the Roaring 20s. Look how glamorous we look. And I'm saying this not to hate on the young people in these photos.
Don't shame them. Don't shame them.
I would never shame them. Never shame them. Youth, treasure it. My thing was this. I'm like, you do look like everyone meandering out of the DL, or you look like everyone in Murray Hill. When people were saying this is the Roaring 20s, this is the face of right-wing glamour, like these people have been voting Republican for like 25, 30 years. There's no like shift here. These are turbo normies, as Dean put it.
I mean, Times Square is full of these people and has been for a long time.
Not Chat Square. Now, Chat Square, that's a different beast.
Yeah. Chat Square, it's more akin to the cover of Mapo Tofu Monthly, which has all the edgiest takes and the spiciest people on that cover. They also
Slurry?
look like suckling pigs.
Ethnic slurry?
They look like Porky pigs too. But, it's hard to avoid that when you're running a Mapo Tofu magazine. I
still think ethnic slurry is something we really need to lock down for that. How thick is too thick?
Steph ethnic slurry. Steph is two cultures in one. He is a slurry of cultures.
You have baited me back into tofu talk. I go into every pod. I go into every pod being like, we need to keep Mapo Tofu magazine church and state. That is the finest publication dedicated to delightful Chinese stews. This is a basketball podcast that delves into pop culture, and yet
ignore
manipulated and gaslit again into talking about Mapo Tofu.
Ignore Mapo media at your own peril. They just will carry on with their Mapo shenanigans. But that cover of New York Magazine, what are they listening to in that booming Roaring 20s club? I bet you it was Kendrick Lamar, Dochi, and
Charlie
whoever
XCX?
was on the Grammys last night. Maybe some Snoop Dogg. Drop it like it's hot. Right? This is the music they're listening to. And this is what Obama likes too. And this is what Ocasio-Cortez jams out to. And also J.D. Vance. And it is one thing. And I don't think we should, music is so weird, but I don't think we should associate our politics and personal opinions to music anymore. It just doesn't function that way. But I want it to function somehow. I want to know what people feel, right? Like, I want to know what people like and what they think and get into that. And I don't have to agree, but tell me the music you're into. And when they're like, well, we're into the same stuff you are, I'm like, I can't tell the differences between us anymore.
Well, I thought that was interesting about Kanye's cameo. So he shows up at the Grammys.
You're about
with
to
his
shame.
wife.
Don't shame.
And she drops her fur coat to reveal she's
wearing clothes.
She's wearing clothes in the loosest, but tightest definition of a garment. Basically, she's wrapped in saran wrap or some sort of
hose. No, not the gardening equipment, the material made to wear on your legs. Hose.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that. I just saw people be like, a garden hose. What the fuck? So she looked like she always does, which was mostly unclothed. And like, well, Kanye is abusing her. in a few years, she's going to write a book about how he gaslit and manipulated her in the same way that you gaslight and manipulate me into talking about tofu into public indecency and exposing yourself in every media opportunity.
Embrace the slurry. Kanye is somebody I stand behind, like thinking he's one of the best artists of our generation, and he lost his mind, and he's bipolar, and he says stuff that I don't even want to think about. I don't want to know him. I don't want to be in the same room as him anymore. But his artwork with his wife is like kind of amazing. As long as no one gets hurt, and as long as it's true, it's her choice. They seem like they're in love still. We're projecting all these objections onto them. His artwork with her is like makes me uneasy, and it's so like it's so in touch with what we're salivating for online that like his music has kind of declined with his psyche. I still like his clothes. I hate his politics, but his artwork with his wife is like kind of amazing.
In show stopping, that's accurate. Goes
On one
viral.
level, it's just pay attention to me, right? And on another level, it's just like you can't look away. This is what you guys are thirsting for. It's the danger, right?
There was some discussions about Kanye's porn addiction that were going around social media over the last day or two. It was people saying they went in the studio with him to record these like really, well-known songs. And it was just loops of pornography like playing throughout the duration of it.
He would be in meetings for sneakers and play pornography.
And then obviously there were allegations about sort of abusive behavior that took place during photo shoots that bordered on pornographic and things like that.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, him presenting himself as horned up is a little bit refreshing. I gotta say.
I was not expecting that word, but I like it. The R bomb.
Refreshing. No, I mean, we've kind of reached this point, I think, in decent society, as opposed to the right wingers who are apple cheeked and posing in the inauguration with vodka on their shirts, and we look at them and say, "Look at them, they're so coarse. They're women in their like short skirts, and these guys." And I feel like the polite society has really sort of banned the horny male. I was going back and looking at some of the covers of magazines like GQ and Esquire from like the early 2000s, and it is horny, dude. It is wildly horny. 2010 Lohan, it's just all sex. It's like 7 positions to make her go wild. It's so horny. And then you see it today, and there's no horniness. I'm not saying it's bloodless, but it's not horny. And even in the style of journalism where someone would meet, a really attractive, whether it's a model or an actress, whatever, and the journalist would be, kind of lightweight sweating her throughout it, just like, yeah, is it a little bit creepy? Yes, but it was a genre. And I do think there is a connection between polite society shaming the horniness of the young man, which is, to be honest, kind of what's responsible for society. It's just the horniness of the man. Like, I'm going to become a more suitable partner by building this pyramid to the gods.
It's like, a
testament to horniness.
Or I can attract the person I want to if I'm more interesting and work harder and have more ethical takes about Keith Van Horn coming to the Garden in a trade deadline bonanza. But like, it's interesting.
If this podcast can be perfect, the world is my oyster.
The motivation and human nature discussion is a big one, but it's interesting how that New York Magazine article came out, cover went viral. Not the article, the cover, after we stopped podding the perfect pod last Monday. And it centered around a woman in the bottom left corner. And people are like, is she hot or not? And everyone's like, hey, you go to the West Village, there's swaths of people who look like this. And people are like, well, they're all very good looking people, like, so this person qualifies. And I'm like, oh, Kanye's onto something. We're just fixated on this thing, but we don't want to talk about it because it's a faux pas. And if we hate the politics of the person, it becomes fair game, right? It's just like we can objectify them because we don't agree with their politics, allegedly. I know nothing about this person. I think they found her online or something. But it is when I say I think Kanye's artwork is interesting, is I think the gaze is interesting. I think he's confronting people being like, okay, I'm in a meeting with suits. I am an artist. I feel cornered by all your stipulations about money and statistics and working and insurance and legal and libel. I'm going to blow your socks off with the thing that will really shock you. Pornography, And it's like low-hanging fruit. It's a banana taped to a wall in a gallery or art fair. But like, it is also something we cannot look away from. So Kanye is like, okay, one day she will be my favorite. I will be wearing just black, and she will be wearing a huge dog fur outfit that is like increases her volume by 3 times. I'm like, oh my God, this dude is onto something. This is kind of amazing performance art. Jeff Koons did this with Cicciolina famously, and now he's celebrated as one of the 4 most artists of our lifetime. He literally made pornography. With a porn star who ends up being a politician. I don't think this is lost on whoever's informing Kanye of this stuff. And her showing up, like, that wasn't a really exciting reveal. But I'm still grateful for him doing that, outraging people, getting kicked out, and having everyone try to Google frantically for that image.
Well, I think with Kanye, not to be a psychoanalyst here, but the measure of public control that he appears to have over Bianca, whether it's genuine or not, that it could be role play. We don't know what the dynamic is like within the household. And that's what lends people to say he's abusing her. She is his plaything. And this is probably tied somewhat to the fact that he lost his family, that his ex-wife is enormously wealthy and powerful.
How did she get enormously wealthy and powerful, right?
And extracted herself from his life with their kids and left him like, look, you can either get a houseboat or you can find yourself a busty woman in a sheer saran wrap dress and take her to the Grammys. Like, do you want all the teriyaki or is there an alternative?
Wow, the teriyaki paradox. I think, Kenji, it's funny how we judge that relationship in a different light. But like Bianca, she did not get famous for the same reasons that Kim Kardashian did. And I'm Kim Kardashian agnostic, right? She seems like she's been famous for so long. That family has affected my world because one of them was married to Lamar Odom, one of my favorite players, and they were married to Kanye when I think he made his best artwork. But he's kind of like putting the Mappa mirror up to our screen, right? He's like, oh, does this offend you? Does it really offend you? I was married to Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, as I said, the horniness is refreshing.
Let's get back to this horny stuff. Where has the liberal horny man gone?
I don't know. Because the horny woman is a constant presence in media, right? I mean, if you look at publications like The Cut, it's like, who are geared towards women, there is absolutely this idea of like the thirsty woman. Like, here's Adam Driver. Here, look at these photos of him. Whatever. Like, look at his shirt. Exactly. His shirt is off. Look at him go. And like that tonality is still there. and I don't know enough about the current incarnations of like Cosmopolitan magazine or whatever, like that were very much that same kind of horny tonality with women back in the day. There was like a little yin yang there where you had the men's magazines were talking about like get any woman in the sack, and then theirs were like,
That was a
drive him
weird
wild.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Lad magazine was like a huge thing, and
Maxim,
I'm saying
various
it was an
versions of
offshoot
Maxim.
of like the Playboy, which
Yeah.
was. It's weird that right now that's kind of like a euphemism for like a nudie magazine when clearly like it had these
Read it for the
Norman Mailer.
articles with Pat Riley.
But also it's like true. It's like Norman Mailer was writing for it.
Yeah.
But now it's just like, oh, porn, like Playboy magazine. It's like, well, not exactly the same, but right. When you had Maxim and Nuts and Stuff and FHM, a lot of magazines.
Thought about these in a while. Yeah.
And
the newsstands were full of them.
Full of them. And a lot of them came from UK. They kind of popularized almost like the softcore nudie magazine. It's like, okay, it's going to have Jenny McCarthy on it. And
right.
Going to be
who's in the new movie? Cameron Diaz.
Right. It's Cameron Diaz as you've never seen her before.
Yeah.
In short shorts.
You saw The Mask this weekend? Buy this magazine with the co-star of The Mask.
As you've never seen her in a bra.
Right. Yeah, that is gone. And sheesh, I don't know. I think it's good that it's gone. I think
one would maturely think that's the case until we come with the legally horned up theory here, which is that they were driven away from polite society by our desire to not be horned up in public and push towards Barstool, which then gets you towards the Jordan Petersons. And then all of a sudden, they're on the Donald, they're voting for Trump, and you can't get a horny man in the Democratic side.
Yeah. One moment you're glazing for politics. Another moment you're just in a blazer.
Now you're at the inauguration, and you're like, I just wanted to be horned up.
You're reading the menswear guy. You're looking like Willy Wonka all of a sudden. You're just like, it's a roaring 20s. It all comes back to Stuff magazine.
I just wanted to see Lindsay Lohan as I'd never seen her before in a bathing suit.
Right. Airbrushed.
That's all I wanted. And now I'm putting tariffs on Canada. Who am I?
I think in 2001, if Rose McGowan rolls up to the VMAs dressed like she was with Marilyn Manson, it would just be like, are we witnessing the birth of a star? As opposed to Bianca Censori rolling up and everyone like, you got to leave, but we got the thousands of photos. Did we get the photos? Okay, you got to leave.
I just wanted to see Sherilyn Fenn as I'd never seen her before.
Oh, look at you glazing for David Lynch now. David Lynch fans. Shout out to George Lynch, his son, David Lynch. Rest in peace. When I say I think it's better, I think like even if things feel a little constrained and even if there is more of a singularity, some good things can come out of it. I think like whether you were pro or against Occupy Wall Street and things didn't really change, something good happened there for sure. And it doesn't have to all be good, but the fact that we don't have magazines, but those magazines is like, I think, a positive for society.
I, again, would have agreed with this until we see the results.
Right. And then we get Kendrick Lamar up there and accepting awards and for accusing another rapper falsely, perhaps, of a crime. And then Donald Trump, your boy in the White House.
Look, I'm not saying we should all be eating beef tallow and drinking raw milk and that we should be building everything looking like a Gothic cathedral. Not making that argument exactly. But I'm just saying when you strip away young male horniness, which has been a constant throughout the entire existence of humanity, and you get rid of Stuff magazine, look what happens. Fascism emerges. Instead of just letting these young men enjoy a copy of Nuts with Jenny McCarthy on the cover.
Well, when you think of those movies that kind of coincided with that movement. It's like American Pie 7. Like, how many did they make? You know, like that movie does not exist anymore. You cannot get that greenlit unless Mel Gibson and John Voight star in the next one.
This is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Bring back Porky's.
Instead of Eugene Levy, Sylvester Stallone is the father.
Oh, we need, dude. It was a cherished part of Americana was Porky's. Like, yeah, there's a scene where they're gonna look through a peephole, and that's actually gonna be the cover of the blockbuster video. An eye peeking through a hole because you know what's on the other side.
It's sort of like Brat Summer. Amazing graphic design really propped up that that movie because the Porky's logo is unforgettable. Those red shiny bubble letters, sort of like the cover of New York Magazine. Everyone looks like a suckling pig. You
do we?
Don't blame me.
I'm not blaming you. I would never blame you for anything.
Yeah, that never happened.
No. Do we want to get into basketball already? Is it too? Are we jumping the gun on hoops?
Well, what other grievances do you have, man? A week is a long time.
Yeah.
What made you mad?
There's got to be some things I'm furious about over the last week.
Have you been to the? Oh, I'm sorry, I stepped all over you. This is bad.
No. I was not keeping up with the speed of your thin brain. Mine was
very
coagulated and like oozing around, and yours
Luka Doncic sized brain. Let's go.
Your brain is.
I'm not shaming your positive brain.
Yeah. I guess I got. Do I have grievances about anything?
Did you visit?
No, I think I got my grievances out.
Did you visit the Sad Pizza Man this week?
Oh, I got a grievance. So the Sad Pizza Man came to Greenpoint, brought crowds with him. The pizza lives up. We're talking about Chrissy's. Lives up to the hype. It's great. So this area of Greenpoint has really been a food desert for the most part. There's one supermarket, a bunch of coffee shops. All right, Chrissy's has arrived. Now people are making that trek across McGinnis. They're on this side. Oh, well, look at this place. It's not that far, I guess. Okay, they're over there. I'm seeing other things open up. Another place opens up a block and a half from Chrissy's. Another pizza parlor.
Is it as disgruntled and sad?
No, and they're making a big deal about their slices. Like, we have slices, like a real thumb in the eye of the Chrissy's whole pie community.
Chrissy's won't do it, right? Chrissy's is a place that does not watch the Grammys. I bet you he's like, fuck Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina Carpenter makes great music, I'm sure. But like, this is not for me. I'm a disgruntled pizza man who listens to like Born Against.
So yes, this is true. So just to give people some context of this food desert, there are now 5 pizza places within a 5-block radius and virtually no other food whatsoever. Except for, like, I don't even like dropping this on the pod, but like I want to help them out a little.
Oh my God.
A little local spot called Restaurant Relax. Have you ever been?
No. That really doesn't vibe with me, though. Relaxation is not how I like to eat my tofu. Spicy, angry.
Stop. Come on.
I'm back.
We're talking
I'm present.
We're talking about the savory flavors of Polish food, mushroom, dill, cream sauces, lots of permutations of potatoes, sausage, cabbage. Went there. It's really good. Saw our buddy Chris Crowley, unrelated, went there the next week and was shouting it out on his IG. I'm like, this guy gets it. Restaurant Relax. If you're in the rural Greenpoint and you don't want pizza, that's kind of your only option.
It looks good. It looks like stunt food too, because it's of a bygone era where things looks terrible. It's just like this weird foamy white stuff with like chives on top. It looks extremely 1950s. But
yeah, there's these like Silesian dumplings. I might have gotten the name wrong, but yeah, they kind of look like fish eyes.
Yeah, it is an awkward painting. It's like a real Julian Schnabel painting. We're like, it makes me uneasy looking at it. Everything's in the wrong place. They're close, but everything looks wrong. I
The
want.
uncanny pierogi is what you're talking about.
Ooh, it. What percentage of it is truly delicious versus the satisfaction of it being truly authentic?
The main key here is that it's truly filling.
Oh
It's
my gosh.
good. It's good, but the thing is, you're just going to leave in a food coma. It's inevitable.
Hmm.
I remember back in the day, there was a Polish spot on, this was on Manhattan Avenue, right where it intersected with Nassau. And this has been gone for a while. Had a name that started with LOM and then just, an
Bunch of
alphabet
consonants. Right.
of Z's and S's and C's and
K's, right.
things.
The justices.
But I remember being, younger and even more impoverished and going over there, and you could put down $8 or whatever it was and get the Polish platter. I'm like, you wouldn't leave the house for 2 days after that.
Are they going to get deported? What's going to happen to these Polish restaurants? Or are the costs going to double with the tariffs from Poland?
Well, I didn't even know this fact that Brexit was mostly spurred by them not wanting Polish people coming in, Polish workers coming in, living a bunch together, undercutting local tradesmen, and then taking their money back to Poland. Like, that was a huge issue of Brexit. I'm like, Polish, the people from Cafe Relax, Restaurant Relax, the ones feeding me my Silesian dumplings, they're great. I can't open the borders, bring more in.
Right. Open those Polish borders.
Yeah.
Have you been to When again? I know we went when they first opened up, but they have been adding things to the menu that have been intriguing to my jaded eyes. Half open eyes. I can say this.
Haven't.
Yeah.
Walked by it the other night.
Yeah.
Still seemed to be getting a pretty good crowd at, I don't know, this probably close to 11 or something. But
he has a strong.
I have not been.
Yeah. He has an extremely strong internet presence where he does a lot of stuff with Luka Sin online, YouTube stuff. And I'm curious because he has a noodle soup shop kind of side project during the afternoons. And it's beef noodle soup. And it looks more authentic than some stuff in Taipei. He's doing like, you want a little tripe or a lot of tripe?
Is that at the restaurant there? They're doing lunch.
Yes. It's a noodle shop just at lunch, noodle menu. It looks awesome and delicious.
And this is a weekday thing.
Yeah.
All right. I will by next week. I will try to report back on that.
Please, we need the information.
So let's. I'm on it. I'm an intrepid reporter when it comes to the soup in Greenpoint. Beat.
We had to segue some food talk before the heavyweight story.
Yeah. So first, I mean, everyone's talked about the blockbuster deal.
It's good to have some time to digest this transaction.
Just fucking masterful.
Give me a Grammy.
Just masterful. So for me, it was funny because I probably went to bed around 12:30. Like, I've been known to burn the midnight oil on occasion, Andrew, but I was in bed by 12 o'clock, slumbering like a baby. I wake up around like 6:30, as one does on the Lord's Day, and I see text after text after text, and some of them were just like, "Is this real?" And I'm like, "What happened? It's like, is a friend in jeopardy? Like, is the world ending? Are these tariffs coming down?" Because there was no context. It just said, "Is this real?" from people who aren't even diehard basketball fans. But then as I just kept scrolling, I found out what this was in reference to. So how did you experience this news? It was much like the Kennedy confirmation.
And where were you? This may be a hint, a foreshadowing of my take. I went to sleep even earlier because I am a washed father. So I was asleep, eyes shut by like 9, woke up at 10. Yo, 2 kids is crazy.
Wait. 13 hours of sleep?
Well, I wake up at like 6. I've been trying to get more sleep too.
Well, I thought you said you went to bed at 9 and then woke up at 10 a.m.?
No, not 10, like 6
a.m. Okay. I was going to say, okay. You said 10. I was like,
oh,
wait,
no.
what?
Oh, I pop up to like check in with my surroundings every few hours because automatically.
Like, do you kind of like make like the rounds with some sort of, I don't know, maybe a lantern or something like that?
Some oil. No, but I automatically like open my eyes to see what time it is. Whatever stuff, go to the bathroom, whatever,
And you're fully clothed, of course.
I sleep in the clothes I have to wear the next day because I'm a time man. Time is money, Ben.
You don't want
But
to waste valuable thin brain trying to figure out what you're going to wear in the morning. I get it.
just try popping up in the clothes you want to wear. And I was walking by Dave's as a side thought. I was walking by Dave's and I was like, "Ooh, I should pick up more pants." And I looked down and I realized I was wearing the same pair of pants I bought from Dave's 15 years ago. Hey, Dickies they age well, is all I'm saying. So yeah, I was wearing my clean pants, my clean clothes for the next day. And at 10 or 11, I checked my phone and I got all the alerts and all the texts from people I haven't talked to in a second. And I was like, my first reaction was like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. And then I closed my phone and woke up and everyone was going ape shit about it. Was it the trade of our lifetime?
So, just the formalities of describing what we're talking about. It's Luka Doncic of the Mavericks being sent, along with Maxi Kleber, to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first-round pick. 2 maxes in this deal, and they could not get Tyrese Maxey into it as well. But, so that's the blockbuster. Came out of nowhere. So let's just start with the stuff that we kind of know, right? Just to get things out of the way. Like, we know that Luka Doncic is a better player than Anthony Davis. We know he is 6 years younger. We know he's a better fit for the Mavericks roster. We know that he is due a enormous extension this summer, potentially. We know that
Dallas Mavericks ownership has switched from Mark Cuban to Miriam Adelson.
Right. We know that. We know Luka is a much bigger star than Anthony Davis also. We know his importance to Dallas franchise that looked at him as the heir apparent to Dirk Nowitzki and thus far had so far kept up that lineage. Like, we're going to have the next face of the franchise, and he was that. And Anthony Davis, as excellent a player as he is, will never be that for Dallas. I'm just saying from a sentimental standpoint. So we kind of know all that stuff.
Also,
so
you forget,
go ahead.
Unceremoniously bounced from the finals in kind of an embarrassing way and woefully injured again this season.
He's had nagging injuries. This is true. So can you justify this trade from the perspective of the Mavericks without... All right, let's just have you justify it. Let's try it. We'll both try to justify it, but that's how we'll start.
On its surface, woefully injured. Supermax coming. Aprons are a big pain. Miriam Adelson did not become a billionaire by being generous.
She got it by marrying Sheldon Adelson.
Right. And, there have been some rumors that she kind of wants to cozy up to NBA brass and the other owners and maybe get some sort of gambling kind of situation progressively, like through DraftKings in Dallas. So she, quote unquote, gave Luka to the Lakers for the NBA's sake. Her Sheldon Adelson, famously Macau gambling icon, however you think about that. So the money wanted, the goodwill and the money were motivation, and his injuries were, I think, something that was so frustrating for Miriam Adelson, number one donor to Trump, wants stuff to happen now. Tariffs. Do tariffs make me popular tomorrow? She's like, he's not playing now. We need to get someone to play now. Forget the future. Get that guy, Anthony Davis, who's having an excellent season, in here. And this guy who's not playing, sunk cost.
Hard for me to believe that Nico Harrison, who is the GM of Dallas, came up with this on his own. He's just like,
agreed.
all right. How
He's
do
a
I
meat
make
shield.
this? How do I make this team better? He's like, trading Luka. it's right there. Trade Luka. That's how I take this team that I built around his strengths and added Kyrie as a secondary scorer, then a bunch of 3-and-D wings, then some lob catching bigs. All this designed about him. But what we really should do is get yet another big man and have no facilitator on this roster and start Spencer Dinwiddie. That's, my friend, how a championship is going to be birthed here in Dallas.
Yeah, and there's that footage that went around of Michael Finley, who's assistant to the GM, taking that beer away from Luka, and then the shame cycle begins. Everyone becomes Kendrick Lamar and accuses Luka of not being a good soldier and being addicted to nachos and being an alcoholic. I heard someone be like, he's an alcoholic. Did you see that beer footage? I'm like, he's going to the finals. He can't sip a brew dog.
I mean, there was a story, and again, this came out a while back, but it was about him just like facing a bottle of tequila, John Morant style, and people were like, yeah, you got a game tomorrow. He's like, I'll put up a triple-double anyway, and he did. You know, I mean, there are stories about Luka being a drinker. There are obviously many stories
like Michael
about
Jordan.
Yeah, no shame, whatever. It's like weighing 270 pounds. That like
he looks skinny coming off that plane, though.
He's a giant guy, also.
He's fat. It's like they traded him because he's fat.
I'm saying he's like 6'8", 6'9". Like he's an enormous person. But I also felt
going to go off in LA.
I also felt as if those rumors about his weight or drinking too much were more of a justification than a motivation, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying they weren't part of the thought process to be like, yeah, and he's out of shape, and, you know, he's drinking a handle of vodka, whatever. Like, because the thing is, it is unjustifiable when you say, we have a top 5 player, we're going to trade him off. Oh, I mean, it's just unjustifiable. That's how you build a team in the NBA, is getting a top 5 player. And if you don't have one, you need to be.
Some teams have never had a player like him. He's a one-of-a-kind player.
You need to be so immaculately built and get lucky like the Celtics did if you just don't have that like superstar. You know, for them to win an asterisk title with a starless basketball team is like a huge accomplishment and really a testament to Brad Stevens' team building. And really Kristaps Porzingis as an enabler of that theory. But I'm saying you look at the Mavs, as long as they have Luka, that team was relevant. That team has a chance. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they'll get the right people around him. Maybe he'll be on a heater. No GM sits there and says, yeah, that's the problem. It's Luka. The guy that's going to keep us relevant for the next decade. He should be traded, and we should bring in an older guy to try to win with Luka's second banana. And we got to win now, my friends. We're going for it right now by getting rid of the best player in this deal. This has to be a money thing. As you said earlier, all of this is money. De'Aaron Fox, who we'll talk about, that's money. Levine, that's money. Everything we've seen.
Jimmy Butler is money.
Jimmy Butler is money. Karl-Anthony Towns is money. It's all money. It's all the new onerous salary cap stuff. This is CJ McCollum's master plan put into action.
If he had something to do with it, we don't know.
Who knows?
Free thug. But
depending on what he did.
Exactly.
Well, he is free. Yeah.
Put him back in jail, depending on what he did. It's like, I think many things, like Dean putting out that article being like, contemporary art now is boring. Me being like, what are dangerous people flattening their artworks for on the Grammys? Why are there so many transactions? It's just money. Money is the theme of everything. We cannot have this conversation about these transactions without discussing taxes and the wealth of these individuals. And, we like to blame, I saw Twitter blaming these players, being like, well, the NBA sucks now because players move too much and they want to change. I'm like, Luka did not want to leave Dallas. AD did not want to leave LA. This is on the owner of the Mavericks wanting to save tax money because, like, if Luka Doncic says, hey, from year 26, I want the Supermax, but I'm going to take a year off and play minor league baseball for the Texas Rangers. Can I do that? Be like, yeah, you can do that because, like, we can't get another one of you. You can basically tell us your demands. Unless you're a billionaire who was handed all the money on the backs of others, and you're like, there's more where he came from, right? And I'm like, this is a cultural divide. There's not more where he came from.
I mean, we sort of saw that with Dan Gilbert and LeBron. The fury of the billionaire scorned. Like, excuse me? Like, I run the show here. I mean, we saw it in Brooklyn, where your boy wanted to show that he, in fact, was what the organization was about. It wasn't KD. It wasn't Kyrie. It wasn't James Harden. It was Joe Tsai and his ideas about running an organization that he could be proud of. And it's like, here you are. You're tanking for the next 5 years, and hopefully you can get a superstar.
7 demands for you. Apologize publicly to me.
And I think there is a pretty spotty track record of teams trading top 5 players while they're still a top 5, right? I'm not talking about guys leaving. I'm not talking about over-the-hill players who were once great being traded at the tail end of their career. I'm saying specifically in their salad days, in their moments of glory, being like, fuck it. Like, fuck it. Get this guy out of here. I'm like, Kawhi is one, right? And he goes to Toronto, they win a title. Anthony Davis also is one. He forced his way to LA. They won the bubble chip, the most difficult chip to win in NBA history.
How old was LeBron during the decision?
But he left of his own accord. I'm only saying.
Okay.
Teams that decided to make a trade, whether their hand was forced or not, but like a top 5 player, right?
No.
Top five, like really elite players. You could put Chris Paul into that category, maybe when he went to the Clippers and turn them into a contender. Mm-hmm. But he also probably would have gone to the Lakers and won titles if the league had allowed that. Mm-hmm. But also Charles Barkley goes to Phoenix, wins MVP, and goes to the finals. KG goes to Boston. He was even a little bit older, but arguably
much older.
in that top 5, top 10 still. He was a great player, wins a title as their best player. I just mean there aren't that many players who are traded by a team to another team while they are at that level because you don't fucking do it. You just don't do it. I mean, even Jason Kidd, good example. Borderline top 5 player in Phoenix, goes to New Jersey, takes him to 2 finals. Luka's gonna have success in LA. I know they aren't good at building teams, but you just can't take a top 5 guy who you've built your entire franchise around that you say, this is the golden one. He is indisputably a top 2, 3, 4 player on earth and say, nah. We're going to get Anthony Davis and we're going to get Kyrie, make a few moves and we're good to go. Doesn't work like that.
My self-admittedly casual friends were texting me and being like, I'm so tired of the Lakers. I thought we were done with that. LeBron's getting older. Like, are they going to win more championships? And to your point, my thin brain was just like, oh my God, all this hemming and hawing about all these transactions, learning the aprons, learning the salary cap, figuring out probability for the draft and Ace Bailey. I'm like, yeah, Luka should probably reach a few finals because they just got the good player. And Jeannie Buss, I should Google this. Like, Jeannie Buss donated to the Kamala Harris campaign. So it wasn't like an inside job. And the thought that came to mind was like, politics don't unite the truly powerful. Power unites the truly powerful. So Miriam Adelson just being like, Jeannie, we agree on nothing. You want the top 5 player in his prime? Jeannie was like, yeah, name your price. Anything you want.
I just got word from from our guys that Luka may have liked a Free Gaza post. We gotta send him out. Get him out of here.
He was trying to get healthy, eating fruits and vegetables, and he came across some delicious small oranges that were easy to peel. He threw one on the table and was like, free Clementine. Adelson was like, not on my watch. There's no fucking way.
We found evidence that he was appreciating a watermelon.
She made
out of
one
town.
call. She was like, "Is Denny Avdia available?" No. All right, we're going to LA.
We're building around Denny.
Build around
We're
Denny.
coming up with a Godfather package from Denny over here.
But you know what I mean? Because like Cuban sold the team to Adelson.
Of course.
Power just likes power.
Yeah. All end of the day, they're all allies against me
us.
and you.
Well,
against
as we're finding out in the first few weeks of this White House, yes, they're not incentivized to help us.
So yeah, the Lakers being the recipient of Luka, it kind of feels right.
I agree.
It's fucked up, but it kind of feels right.
It's fun as hell, man.
If it was like Luka is on the Jazz, like what's this? Oh my God, I can't believe the Jazz were able to put together the Luka package, but they gave him Collins, they gave him Jordan Clarkson. Like, wow.
Like, Chianti, yeah.
It's not sexy. Luka in LA, it's good. And that's why I understand people's conspiratorial approach to this. It's like the NBA wanted this. Well, the NBA does want this.
It's a for-profit
doesn't mean that they hold the levers to get this to happen, but it also doesn't change the fact that they do want it. They do want it very much.
New York is good. LA is good. Boston's good. Let's go, Miami. Only 4 teams matter.
Yeah. So do you think, I mean, where do we even start? I mean, there's just so many, it's content rich material here.
I love it.
I guess when I'm looking at Dallas, my real question is, if this is a financial move and this is coming down from the franchise authorities, the gods are saying, look, Luka needs to be traded now before he's eligible for this extension, but we want to remain competitive. We also want to keep this on the low. We don't want this becoming a circus. We just want this to happen and be done with it, because if it becomes known that we're talking about trading Luka, we're going to get a full fan rebellion. The same people who were there, who are outraged, like, oh my God, Nico Harrison is like my biggest op. Those people would have been going crazy as soon as they found out that Luka was on the bandwagon. So they needed it quiet. They needed to get back a great player, which Anthony Davis is, to remain competitive. And they also needed it to get done now.
And they didn't want to rebuild. Right.
Didn't want to rebuild. Could they have done this and gotten back a better player than Anthony Davis? Probably not.
I disagree. It depends on how you think of Devin Booker. There's not many, right? I think Boston would have given anyone except Tatum. I think Jaylen Brown is the top 100 player, but he returns in that deal.
I mean, Anthony Davis is so much better than Jaylen Brown. That's not even comparable.
Statistically, Anthony Davis, I think, is a top 5 player, not an MVP top 5, but statistically, raw numbers, he is one of the 5 best players so far this season. Obviously, Luka's a system and Anthony Davis is a valve, but whatever. But like, if you made it known to the Knicks that he was available, everyone except Brunson is collateral damage, right?
Oh, I agree. I'm saying,
but AD is better than Cat. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think if you were gonna say, okay, here are our top 5, we know who they are, right? We know who those guys are, and I'm putting Wemby in there, and Joel is out.
Yeah, of course.
So we know our top 5, right?
Yeah.
SGA, Luka, Jokic, Giannis, and Wemby. That's the best 5 players in the NBA. There's no one really on that tier.
Everyone else
other than healthy Embiid, and we haven't seen that guy in a calendar year.
Or a healthy Luka, who we haven't seen in a calendar year. You know,
true. But I'm saying that's our top 5. I would argue that KD, LeBron, AD, Tatum, those guys are that next group. So, like, from a perspective of the Mavs, and I agree, I would always take the system versus the cog.
Right.
Always. And I would always take the 25-year-old over the 32-year-old. Like, there are many reasons here. But
I would take the ball handler versus the lob catcher. Right.
But there wasn't that player available that was better than AD, in my opinion. again, I hate this trade. None of it makes any sense.
Terrible
I would
trade.
never do it.
Yeah.
But AD probably was the best actual player you could get back, unless you wanted to say kind of, I think what you were sort of referring to before. You said, hey, we want Ant Edwards and we want Naz Reid.
Yep.
Like, well,
That gets
we
it done.
want your young star for
Yep.
Luka instead. But Anthony Davis is like a top 6-7 player in the NBA. He is the best guy you could have possibly gotten that would have been available.
He's a beast. And Miriam Adelson, based off of her politics, I can only assume that she values the president. She's not a young person anymore. I don't want to no shaming episode. So she is age positive, but like she wants now. She wants money now. She wants to do a casino. It has to be now. And she has Kyrie Irving, who's been balling, should have been maybe an all-star. That roster is workable. If you're Jason Kidd, you're mad as hell, but also you have a top big on your hands who now gets a shift to power forward because they have Gafford and Lively coming back, who were acquired to play with Luka. But anyway,
just small detail there.
I mean,
I sorry to cut you
shout out
off
to
because
Nico, but yeah,
I'm just going back to your point before. I hadn't really recognized that Miriam Adelson is 79 years old.
This is it. Yeah.
And this is kind of like the Mapo mirror to our country, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Ooh,
Let's like,
it really
okay,
hits, man. Yeah.
Let's just like, all right, here's Chuck Schumer and Pelosi and Bernie,
Donald Trump,
and Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Like, okay, you guys are gonna sort this out, right? You got it on charge. Like trade Luka.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Is he playing now? When's he going to be back? In a month? We got to win these games right now.
They're like, dude, I'm dying. The world ends when we die. Like when the light goes out on me, Chuck Schumer, when me, Joe Biden, well, then it just goes out for everyone, doesn't it? Isn't that how this works?
And shout out to Sam Hinkie and the process, because all the haters and the people who mock that thing have come together on Twitter being like, they didn't get picks. You got to get all the picks for a Luka Doncic. If you're going to release the possession of a player that good, you need to mortgage your future on picks and draft capital. The process, basically. Everyone's in agreement on this. Everyone's always been in agreement on this. Value comes in the potentiality of these picks. And these picks are not only valuable as actual players, but the potential of actual players that you can flip.
Yeah, this is not an original take, but it is shocking they didn't get more picks and swaps.
They should have gotten more. Yeah, from somewhere, a third team. You got to get 2.
I mean, the Lakers kept their 2031 pick or whatever. It's like, dude, just get their pick. Are you shitting me? Oh, back off, buddy. Don't test your luck. You're already getting Anthony Davis. You're already getting Max Christie. Like, I'll put this phone down. I'll hang up on you right now. Okay. All right. Just the one pick. Thank you.
Yes. And I don't want to talk about this too long, but the Joe Psyops people who are like, oh, Mikal Bridges cost 5 first-round picks. I'm like, that's an anomaly. They wanted one specific player to combine with 3 or 2 other specific players, and those picks aren't that good. It was too much to pay, but we're finding out now they got exactly what they wanted. Both parties are happy. No Joe Psyop there.
I like the introduction of Joe Psyop to the Cookies Hoops vernacular. Expect to hear it again. Right. So from the Lakers' perspective here, you do it every time. That goes without saying. Hey, someone picks up the phone and is like, willing to trade you Luka Doncic. You're like, all right, I'm listening. All right, I'll hear you out. Fine, right? And I thought one of the interesting sort of the interesting historical notes to how this took place was always that everyone was like, Nico, are you stupid? Like, are you fucking stupid? And he's like, and when they told me that, I knew I should do this deal. It's like people repeatedly telling him, like, you're joking, right? You're not actually gonna do this. That's crazy, man. Like, are you insane? Do you have a thin brain? And he's like, and the more times they told me that I couldn't do this trade, the stronger my inclination came to do the exact trade they called me an R word for.
I mean, his telling of how that went down to me reeked of someone who didn't have a choice. And he was just trying to frame it and not lie.
100%. 100%. Like,
He got
sir, I know a meat shield when I see one.
Exactly. Shout out to Nico because he built the team around Luka. He knows how valuable Luka is because he traded for Lively. I believe he traded Case and Wallace for Lively on draft day. And that was good because it fit in with what that team was doing, the system that Luka offered as a ball handling lob thrower and scorer who doesn't play much defense. And just to be like, yeah, I threw this idea at my friend Rob Pelinka and he didn't believe me. And then, we stewed on it. What he's really telling us is I had no choice and I'm a big hunk of pork for a shield for an 80-year-old.
He's like, look, I'm out here in a suit of armor made of flank steaks, and the dogs are just gnawing at me, hanging from my elbows. Oh, I think they just got my Achilles tendon. That's a company man. And he is because he came from Nike. I'm saying he is a company man.
Yeah.
And when he went out there and took all those shots, he was doing that for ownership. I fully believe that. I just find it impossible that he was musing his options and arrived at this one.
to that genius of a negotiator, Rob Pelinka. He just got into his flat brain. Are you shocked when the dust settles? And it's nice to do this after a few days have passed because there's an immediate response and then there's the perfect response. How do you feel about it?
I feel as if we have the perfect response. Also, with all due respect to all other basketball media, I feel like when people are grappling with these ideas, it gets a little bit redundant. So I like that we had a chance to interpret the news as it filtered out before we discussed it.
And I got to deliver the cookies pierogi. The people who objected to this trade the most, Boston Celtics media. People who are just like, this is an outrage. The Lakers cannot get this quality of player. What are we even doing? And I'm
now, for example, a Jaylen Brown, Derek White deal. Now that's the kind of thing that could have kept them right in the hunt.
Yeah. Why didn't it go? Yeah, it's like we had the pieces.
They didn't call up Brad. They didn't call up Brad Stevens and get the Horford Pritchard combo pack.
You have to let there be a bidding period. We have to go through the whole cycle where the whole league can offer one guy, Pritchard, with a P-Dog.
So, all right. So are we going to see LeBron and Luka play together?
Well, there's rumblings that LeBron is still angling to get his way to Steph Curry in Golden State. But he has said, it's like, I'm happy. I'm going to retire as a Laker. He likes to lie as he's a famous truth. What's the right word? He's
half truth teller.
Half truth teller, right? He's sensational, but he's with his son. I think seeing him and his son as jaded as I am, I can say that it's really wonderful to see when Bronny does something nice and the excitement on LeBron's face. I find that to be a certain joy that has no noise. But that's a great question because Luka is still out for a while longer. And LeBron this week would be interesting. I think he stays. I think we see them together. Do they work together? Like their game against the Knicks without Anthony Davis was kind of a display of like the powers of that roster with JJ Redick. I thought they played a pretty immaculate game. They were attacking the Knicks in ways that I thought were clever, and they really beat the Knicks, a decent team.
Knicks have a phenomenal offense, and you could make the argument during that game that the Knicks missed some shots they normally make. A lot of misses around the basket.
They left Hart open. Yeah.
But that was a lot of Lakers strategy. They left Hart open. Yeah. They left Precious open. They did a great job selling out to protect the rim, especially on Brunson, especially on Cat. They double teamed from up top and did not give him the ability to make clean passes out. I thought it was a well executed defensive strategy.
It's an awesome game.
Really fun game, and the Lakers kept just bringing athleticism and height every time. Brunson, the
Max Christie's good. We haven't mentioned Max Christie. He's a good basketball player.
He can play.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Lakers looked excellent. My thing about LeBron is this: he's had a lot of his like side quests, right? Where it's like, okay, I got to win my first title. Now I got to win a title in Cleveland. Did that. Okay, what else could I do? What about winning a title in LA where I want to live? Did that. Okay, sick. All right. I'm going to become the leading scorer in NBA history. Cha-ching. What about playing with my son? That sounds crazy. Done. What does he have left?
Owning a team.
I'm saying this.
Yeah.
Yes. Owning a team. But as a player, genuinely, and I'm not saying this as like he's got nothing left. I'm like, he does have something. He's not telling us necessarily what it is. He might be hinting at it. There's got to be something left that is like one more itch to scratch.
However knowing LeBron James is as like a cringe dude, I think the love he has for certain individuals in the league is like so awesome to see. And I do believe he wants to play with Steph Curry. I think they vibe as friends and they vibe on the court. I think there's actual legitimacy in saying like, is he going to just like be curious, be like, hey, what's it take to get Steph here or me there? I think he really loves that dude.
I agree. And I think if KD was in a different boat, a little bit different of a player, he would love that too. He clearly relished the opportunity to play with them during the Summer Olympics. But Curry does seem like the one because they had those battles in the finals. And KD was almost like a usurper in that rivalry.
Right. He was the guy sitting on the chair next to the bed. Come on, the DeAndre Jordan chair. The famous chair of DeAndre Jordan.
Hadn't really considered that the real way to describe Kevin Durant joining the Golden State Warriors dynasty was the cuck chair. But now that you've mentioned it, it's really inescapable, and the audience
Try to forget
feel
that.
free to use that. And this is not just a Joe psyop. But I think that rivalry was something that LeBron really cherished because he went to the finals and almost beat them with no one. Comes back, beats them, and brings the title back. And now they're 1-1. And then Durant shows up, and it kind of skewed the whole thing. It made the Warriors just extremely difficult to beat, almost impossible to beat at full strength. And that kind of derailed a little bit of that rivalry. And as you said, they always had a matter of friendship, but there was always a little edge of class resentment in there too, which I think made it even more fun because KD and LeBron's background is fairly similar, right? But I would say that Curry growing up in the league as a rich kid with everything sort of handed to him as this golden child, and LeBron being the chosen one, but from the trenches, from Akron, from a really tough background. That was a fascinating dynamic of that finals. And I remember when LeBron really barked on Curry. I was there like, yes, this is a victory for the working class.
Yeah, right. But as we find out, it's a flattening of all this politics, and now they're homies. And like I don't think Pelinka does anything with LeBron. I think LeBron talking about money is too valuable just as a name. If he's 45 years old and he wants to go to any team, he's valuable as a celebrity. But yeah, I do believe we see them together, and I'm dying to see them together. I think Luka and LeBron is thrilling. Reeves is like, we've talked about Reeves ad nauseum on this pod, but like I like him quite a bit. He's not a star player, but he's like a really good player, and Pelinka's right to not want to trade him either. I'm excited. The Lakers being villains again is really great. I'm excited to hate the Lakers again.
Here's a question. Would you rather LeBron get traded to Golden State right now? And whatever that package would be, they can make the money work. It's not crazy. It could be Wiggins and
Kuminga,
and whoever, right?
sure, Moody,
Picks.
whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
let's just say that happens. Would you rather him end up in Golden State and never see him and Luka together, or him play with Luka and not go to Golden State? Like what scratches the Quo itch?
Luka and LeBron, certainly. Love Luka, love LeBron together. I never thought I'd see them together because they haven't played on Team USA together. We've seen LeBron and Steph do their thing, which is fun as hell. But I want to see the Lakers. I want to see the Lakers give it their best shot, because when San Antonio Spurs beat them year after year after year, I want Lakers fans to be like, this is our best team we had. I don't want them to be like, well, LeBron left. It was supposed to be LeBron and Luka. I want Wemby and Fox to be like, we beat your best team.
I want to see LeBron and Luka only because seeing Luka with a inferior team to the one that he left in Dallas doesn't excite me. Like, hey, we did it. LeBron's playing with Curry. That's cool. I would like to see that as well. That would be really fun. That must watch. Love those guys.
There's no way. There's no way.
Phenomenal.
I feel like that's not.
But I'm saying, I mean, I think Platschke from the LA Times just kind of wrote a column like, is LeBron next? Like, is that
Platschke,
that the next move?
Shout out to Platschke, but yeah.
But I mean, to me, the idea of trying to figure out a way to win with LeBron and Luka is so cool. And I want to see them out there. And I want to see two processing speed savants on the court at the same time, trying to figure out how to make Rui see the court and be able to find an open man.
Rui can say jaded.
Right. But I mean, also LeBron going there, then sending Kuminga and Wiggins and watching Luka play with them, gives a fuck. Yay, it's a worse team than he was in Dallas, but it happens to be for the Lakers. I liked watching him with Kyrie and their big dunking centers and their wings. I mean, Mavericks were cool to watch. I liked that team as they were. I don't like him and a bunch of random scrubs from Golden State playing in Los Angeles. That doesn't do anything for me.
So, and I'm kind of stealing a Stugatz take here that he had this Monday morning, but with factoring in a team build and injury, was this trade a nothing burger? Are these teams just exactly how they were before the trade? I don't necessarily believe this, but I love this thought process. It's like, okay, AD, really good player, goes to Dallas. Are they beating Jokic or SGA? Probably not. Oh, Luka, however injured and however terrible defender he is, who got roasted in the finals, like dismantled in the finals. Does he make them better than the Thunder or Jokic firing off on all cylinders? Probably not. Was this a trade that was static?
I disagree with that, I think.
Me too. But
where the Mavericks, I do. I get it. I just think that the Mavericks went to the finals last year, and we can talk about the availability of that route, the health of Luka, whatever. But like proof of concept, they weren't good enough to beat the Celtics, but that you were a contender with this current configuration.
The Wolves were weird. That was a weird conference finals.
I agree, but that Dallas team was good during the regular season. They defended on an elite level, despite the fact that Luka is not a good defender. And they lost in that finals in part because Luka was hurt. I don't think they matched up well
and like made dumb plays.
Yeah, they did. They did not get the same looks that they got against Minnesota. Celtics had a good game plan, took away corner threes, made those guys take above the break threes instead. Like the chess game, right? Whatever. But I'm saying Luka just was hurt. He was questionable a bunch of the games. I can't remember if he missed some or he was hobbled. He was a defensive liability. I'm just saying Anthony Davis is really good, but that just puts this weird cap on the Mavericks where it's like, okay, you're not good enough to win this year, and these guys are both old. So what then? Where does this go?
Right.
You're going for it right now, but you aren't as good. Unless you can get Jimmy Butler. That to me is like the only way out here. If you can package together some of those other bigs and some of these picks and get Jimmy Butler, okay, now I'm intrigued. Like, I'm like, all right, Kyrie, Jimmy, AD, a couple role
Well,
players. I'm into this. Like
well,
undesirables, like Stallone, Van Damme, like all the elderly hobbled guys are
John
getting together
Voight
to.
on the bench. Yeah, get John Voight in the suit. Um, but to counter that, I don't hate this team build without Jimmy Butler because I love the bevy of wings, the 3-and-D guys. They got Max Christie, they got Quentin Grimes still there. Like that's an interesting modern team right now.
I don't think they're going to be bad. I
Yeah.
just don't think the ceiling is as high, and it's also a shorter duration. That to me is the thing.
Oh my
I mean,
god, it's yeah,
the
it's
Lakers
a sugar high.
perspective,
Yeah.
from the Lakers perspective, I mean, I don't know how LeBron and Luka play out together. Whether LeBron wants to go, whether this is something he genuinely didn't sign off on. I mean, Anthony Davis is represented by Clutch.
But they allegedly had a rift, right?
I also mean that like Anthony Davis's agents might tell him, even if like when it occurs, he might not know. Players say all the time that they find out about their trade on, via Woj or from a phone call. Like that's a common thing. A lot of guys who get traded
Sure.
aren't
On
alerted by
TV,
their agent,
on
and
Sports Center.
their agent wouldn't even necessarily know. I think there was a perception that like, okay, Pelinka's getting AD's agent here. It's like, not really.
Well,
I still think
yeah,
LeBron probably knew, but
LeBron's a different case, right? And LeBron lies about everything. So yeah, we could assume he knew, but Luka showing the screenshot of his phone of Nico Harrison calling him every like 3 minutes was
but
hilarious.
I don't know if that was true though.
Oh, okay. That was like,
It might have been a
someone noticed it.
Centel. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. I mean, another detail was I think somebody had mentioned the Dallas, a very tumultuous front office for a long time. Were unhappy with Luka's like complaining and his performance in the final. So it was unbecoming of the team. So there was that too. Um, LA might be a mess of complaints and sore ankles and hobbling and Luka begging for calls. Like that might be like the villain we always wanted.
But
I,
this all strikes me as kind of what we were getting into before. If you're going to trade somebody and it's just because of money, you better have a whole bunch of bullshit to spin out there to make it so it wasn't. I didn't feel like paying
yeah.
the luxury tax. I didn't feel like going into the second apron. I didn't feel like the onerous parts of the new collective bargaining that CJ McCollum may or may not have been responsible for.
Well,
So you got to
he's
say,
driving a
well,
purple.
he's fat,
Yeah.
he's drunk, he complains, he was bad in the finals. All those reasons we don't want to pay him.
Genie Bus giving CJ McCollum a gold and purple Lamborghini. Oh, you want to retire? You can be assistant coach for the Lakers. You scratch your back. We'll scratch yours. But yeah, the thing that I also noticed talking about way back, like where was I? I spent some time scrolling through X, which even Blue Sky. I've migrated to Blue Sky, but all the action is still on X, sadly. And there were so many videos of drunken high people reacting to this trade on my feed of like college kids in Dallas being like, no, people crying, people at
Yeah,
restaurants being like,
that's why they couldn't float the trade idea
yeah.
earlier. All right, we're gonna start the auctioning. Everyone's like, you're doing what now?
Yeah. People just like in non-basketball environments watching it turn into people were like, I was in the club and the DJ stopped playing and announced the trade, and everyone was like outraged, like in Brooklyn, which is incredible. And it got me to thinking about the ratings debate, which is a straw man, because the NBA is more popular than we think. And I don't remember a single NFL trade that had this much heat behind it, where there was just outrage. Maybe because players in their prime don't move that often. But it's just a scheduling thing. People watch the NFL just because it's Sunday and you can drink beer and eat loaded nachos and be your best Luka Doncic self. But the NBA is extremely popular, probably more popular than the NFL, to be honest.
in a cultural sense, I think it extends outside of the sport in a way that the NFL does not.
For
The
gambling.
NFL owns Sundays. It has gambling. Like it has this idea of it's like a right. It's a church. It's this thing. But yeah, for the most part, like people aren't just talking about NFL players and stuff. And of course they do, but in the same way of just like pop culture, like Luka's a pop culture figure. And the Lakers are a pop culture franchise.
Yeah.
And but no, just to finish off that thought about
sure.
what you had brought up before, this idea about the ratings are down and that's why people don't care. And all we said was we need the Boston media to be unhappy, and no one ever is excited by basketball in November.
Yeah.
So we get to the trade deadline, we get some player mobility, we get some blockbusters, and we get the Boston media unhappy. Their team is lost about 40% of their recent games. Their traditional arch rival now gets Luka Doncic. NBA is back, baby. This league.
This league. Yeah, I read some person tweeting. It's like, my parents just moved to Dallas and they went out for brunch on Sunday morning and everybody was complaining about trading this guy Luka Daniels. And I'm like, yeah, the city is like paralyzed and there's like people
that's
leaving.
Dyson Daniels you're talking about.
I know.
And that's New Orleans.
That's why did they trade him? But the pictures of people outside of the Mavericks arena like lamenting, talking about like happiness and their lives and being disappointed. I'm like, welcome to basketball freedom. This happened to me with Jeremy Lin. It felt like my jaded world was crashing in on me. And then I was like, this is fucking fun. This is what we're into. Having a good team is stressful, but like, I am relieved of this burden that is sports.
You can't kill Quo. He's already dead.
Already.
And I felt this way too when Nerlens Noel was shipped off to Dallas, ironically.
Wow. Well,
heart broke.
Yeah, I mean, now we have to talk about the true dynasty brewing in Texas. And that's San Antonio.
So, a trade that was also a blockbuster, albeit overshadowed, of course, by the monster trade, was one that was more expected. And we had De'Aaron Fox, all-star shooting guard from the Sacramento Kings, was rumored for several days to be headed to the Spurs, and that came to fruition. So the other surprise part of this was that Zach LaVine, who had also been rumored to be on the move, was roped into the trade, rerouted to Sacramento, and then some picks and some scraps and some contracts that are not that appealing end up going back to Chicago. My immediate take, rare win-win-win trade. Everybody kind of gets what they want. We'll get into the specifics of San Antonio and what this means for them as like the main focus of this, but Chicago does not have interest in winning. They get their pick back. They shed a contract that appeared to be immovable. Even last year, Zach LaVine has shot extraordinarily well this year. Hyper efficient. He's been good. Sacramento gets him to replace Fox. All they're trying to do is get buckets in Sacramento. Well, guess what? You got a guy who doesn't have any other interest either. So they get to replace Fox. And then we get to San Antonio. So we talked a little bit about this last week and what this could mean for San Antonio. We also talked about some like trade packages that were like way more elaborate, way more princely in what the Spurs would have had to give up.
We were talking about how do you protect Castle?
Like
they want Castle, you have to protect them.
You have to protect Castle, and if you won't give up Castle, you got to give them Champagny, you got to give them CP3, you got to give them Vassell. Ultimately, it ends up basically scraps 2 first-round picks, one that's going to convey, 3 first-round picks, one that is absolutely going to convey as 2 future seconds, another one that's protected, and then one that's way down the line that may be extremely valuable, but like time will tell. Andrew, how do you feel about that deal for the San Antonio Spurs?
That was the real collusion. Everyone was talking about, oh, the league wants LA to be great. True. But Wemby getting an all-star point guard to pair next to an already excellent prospect in Castle, keeping CP3 and Sohan is still there. I love it. And they're stacking that team. And it reeks to me of building a brand. And I kind of love it because Wemby is unlike any player in sports I've ever seen. And I'm happy they're putting the pieces. I like De'Aaron Fox quite a bit as a point guard. He's not elite. I think he's in the second tier with Brunson, as we talked about last week. But to get him in his prime, that's awesome. I think we are going to see actual Wemby, like the actualized version of Wemby, now or very soon.
I was a little bit skeptical of the trade when we considered what they would have to give up. Like we had 4 first rounders and this young talent. For what they gave up, great trade.
Yeah.
Great trade. You did not give up any of those young pieces. You kept the Hawks picks, which are valuable. You didn't, you gave up 2 that were protected. I mean,
stuff. It's a stuff.
They basically gave up, not bullshit. These things have value, but in comparison to what we sort of projected or speculated they would have to cough up to get De'Aaron Fox, that's not what happened. So now I think they've completed the first part of this, right?
Exactly.
Which is like, get him for the low. The real question for the Spurs is, can you pay him less than he is entitled to get?
Yeah.
Like, who else is out there? Yeah. Who else is going to give De'Aaron Fox like $70 million a year? Nobody. So can you go and say, De'Aaron, we love you. We're going to give you 55. Can you get him for less than he is entitled to? And if they can do that, I'm speaking from the San Antonio perspective. I hope De'Aaron Fox gets every penny he can. Rinse them. Like, that's great. But just from a San Antonio team perspective, if you get him for a low price, both in terms of what you gave up and what you pay him annually, then it's a fantastic trade.
Exactly.
And you pay him $70 million a year, he's not that good.
Exactly. Yes, he is not a no-brainer like Luka. He comes with a few caveats. I think some of the processing the Fox team might have is, I think every young point guard wants to play with Wemby. I think that is a very coveted slot in the NBA currently. Him as a lob threat. Obviously, I don't have to explain it. But I think Fox's team might understand that the money he may be losing, and people don't get rich by giving up money, but the money he may be forfeiting if the Spurs rightfully ask him to take a lesser contract would come back to him in exposure. And it depends on what he wants. Does he want to win a championship? I don't think winning a championship is paramount to every player, and I respect that because money is real. But I think Fox absolutely would try to stay there as long as he can.
Reading the tea leaves a little bit about, can I say that?
As long as they're not green tea leaves.
Okay. Yeah. Reading the English.
Yeah. But they get into some weird Dutch East India Company stuff.
Yep. We don't have to get into the colonial history of England.
What about the Rudy Tanjanovic leaves? Who's the famous T? Who's the famous T? Yeah.
T Morant leaves.
Right.
Brooklyn will have $1 zillion and could go and say, we'll just pay you the max. Right?
That would be funny.
You can come and be in New York. How about that? Otherwise, Washington, maybe they don't have a need for him. Charlotte doesn't have a need for him. Chicago doesn't have a need for him. Detroit does not really have a need for him. I don't know. Somewhere like Houston could try to move things around. I mean, there are a few. I'm just saying there are a few suitors who might say De'Aaron Fox would be perfect for our team, but I think the Spurs could kind of say, "How about we pay you a 4-year deal max? What you could earn elsewhere. We'll give you another $10 on top of that, and you get to play in Wemby. You're from Texas, or at least you played high school, I believe, in I believe maybe it actually was around Dallas or Houston, but whatever. He's in Texas. I don't know. I don't think you need to give him that mega max salary
He
because
requested San Antonio.
he honestly isn't worth it.
Oh, I agree.
I like Fox. I don't love Fox. I don't think he is an anomaly among shooting guards in the league. He is a good one, and again, I really like his game. He's fun.
Yeah.
He's so quick. He's great. Really good pick and roll like artist. But I wouldn't put him in a category above the Donovan Mitchells and the Maxis and the Brunsons. There's a lot of those guys.
It's hard to get those guys, right? Like when you
There's
get
a lot of them, but they're also hard to get.
Yeah, for sure. And New Jersey, I mean Brooklyn, would be hilarious as like a Brooklyn default hater of the Nets as a fake rival. Because they're rumored to have put what's his name on the trading block, their center, this week. And I always forget his name. Very dashingly handsome man. Max contract guy ish. Who am I thinking
on
of?
who?
The Nets. Who's their center? This shot blocker. I always forget his
Claxton?
name. That's right. Clax.
All you had to say was the beautiful man on the Nets.
He's a very handsome dude. So
Bojan?
Yeah, it's sort of like Ubre. I just forget my train of thought. But the fact that they're putting him available for trade is an indication they probably won't max out a player like De'Aaron Fox. I think they're rebuilding for real. I think Fox stays. He asked for San Antonio. He got it, and they had to give nothing up for him in real time, in the present, because as a player, that's what you identify, your window. Is Sacramento a dumping ground for all these players we don't like?
Well, that and New Orleans.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Just sequester them.
If you have a player that I am sick of watching, they should all be on the same franchises so I can diligently avoid them. I don't want them interspersed around the league, so I have to inadvertently, I'd like to watch a Bulls game. Like, well, here's Zach LaVine. Now I got to watch him. I mean,
does
when Brandon
Vucevic
Ingram
have to go to New Orleans?
He's kind of.
Are you a Vooch fan? I don't care about Vooch, but I want to see Jalen Green.
Vooch doesn't annoy me when I see him, but I've seen enough of Vooch. I mean, this guy's a Sixers legend.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But yeah, the Pelicans getting CJ McCollum, Ingram, and DeJounte in one place. I'm like, this is wonderful. 3 players that I am not a big fan of watching have all been siloed down in the, and they're out there playing for the New Orleans Jazz.
If it wasn't for Tyler Hero and Jovic, the Heat might be turning into that situation for me personally. I love Bam, but don't love watching him. Jaime Jaquez has turned into a player I don't enjoy quite a bit either. I'm not loving that Miami situation, especially without Jimmy.
I mean, for me, I've really enjoyed watching the Sixers cultivate a peerless collection of 35 to 42-year-old basketball players who have no athleticism, are kind of grumpy.
And Yabu being a young version of that.
But they got all of them, like Drummond, Gordon, Reggie Jackson, Lowry. They have cornered the market on the least watchable veterans.
This is true. And
Jeff Green? No, he's too cool. He might dunk.
I mean, they're doing fan service here. They're giving us an out of watching these games when we could be gallivanting with conservatives in downtown New York City.
This is true. I would Got to give them credit for that.
So what's up with Jimmy saying he wouldn't extend in Golden State?
I can't tell what Jimmy actually wants. It would be cool if he would be more specific. He's like, I'm down to go everywhere. Like Memphis, he's like, no. Okay.
But he said,
what
Phoenix.
About Golden State? No. Well, that's what I mean.
Phoenix.
He just wants, so he just wants to go one place.
Right. I mean, he wants to stay in Miami and hang out with our friend Dizza at Big Face Coffee and Andrew Skate Shop and just like enjoy real retirement, like we always said.
I feel like Dallas kind of has to make a move for him. That makes sense to me.
That would be compatible. Would he agree to go there as a good soldier?
I mean, he doesn't have to agree to go anywhere. It's more like, would he be open to resigning?
Or, yeah, I mean, would he go there as like would he fall in line and play, quote unquote, hard and fulfill his duty?
Probably yes, because he wants a new contract and he wants someone to pay him, even if it's not them. Mm-hmm. If he goes there and sulks, he's not getting the contract he wants.
He might not get the contract he wants anyway.
I'm saying Dallas, if they could move some things around, because AD makes a lot of money, but Kyrie they got on a bit of a discount, and like they don't have huge amounts of immovable money because a lot of those guys like Gafford or I mean Clay's kind of expensive, but he's not that much. Those guys are sort of movable. I don't know. I if I'm Dallas, I am extremely into the Jimmy Butler business.
Is this CJ Collins' revenge? Let's say he had something to do with the aprons. And he's like, trust me, man, this will be more fun for the fans. You're going to have a bevy of things to talk about because I made it impossible for these teams to hold their assets. They have to give them up or they pay a tax. Have we been giving him a hard time? Like, this is the most player movement we've seen of this caliber of player in ever, right?
Did CJ McCollum put his eye through that hole in the locker room wall?
Does he have the longest view?
Is he Porky's?
He's got that. New Orleans is a food city. I don't know if they're known for their porchetta, but I wouldn't be surprised based on how CJ McCollum has negotiated the CBA.
I don't know. They're just taking all my least favorite players and they're putting them down in that wonderful, magnificent city. They need to get Zion out because I want to go watch him play for a more fun team. So like keep everyone else there. CJ, Ingram, DeJounte, you all stay there. Give us Zion.
I disagree on the Pelicans thing because I love Trey Murphy. I love Herb Jones, and Jose Alvarado season has begun.
No, I like all those players too. I'm just saying, send them out. Keep everybody else.
Yeah.
Love those guys.
You know what I also love?
Is it Perfect Podcast?
Oh, the Perfect Pod. Welcome to YouTube Cookies Hoops.
Cookies.